This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas. Magazine publisher and entrepreneur Judith Mancini is sharing captivating conversations with experts in their field about the latest trends in our ever-changing world to help you become healthy, wealthy, and wise. Judith Mancini Today will spark your interest and inspire you to lead your best life ever. And now, here's Judith.
Judith Mancini Today is sponsored by Basic Brands, Inc., providing the highest quality specialty products in the natural food industry. Visit basicbrandsinc.com and enter JMT15 for your 15% discount on your very first order, including their best-selling vitamin E ointment, which helps restore moisture and elasticity to your skin. Excuse me. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Judith Mancini Today. And we have a lot going on. There's lots of news coming up. I haven't been able to get exactly what's happening with Alec Baldwin, so we're going to wait a couple minutes about that. But I'm asking you questions basically today in the news segment. There's so many murders going on. These guys are psycho, like the Idaho murders of the 4 college students, the murder of the woman, the wife in, I think it's Minnesota. This is horrible. What's the matter with these men? Why are they going off the edge like this and doing such atrocious things? And it seems like they're all so personal. And the man who allegedly murdered his wife has so much evidence against him. I don't know how his public defender can even say to him, sure, if you want to plead innocent, go right ahead. I don't know how it works with a public defender, but I think you can file papers with a court saying that you cannot represent this person because of such and such and such and such. And the judge could probably say you may be taken off the case. We'll take a little bit of time and get a new one assigned. I know you're supposed to be a public defender and get the best deal for your client, but the evidence in this case is so strong against somebody like him. It's unbelievable to me. It's tragic. And sometimes the perpetrator is never found and never convicted, even though so much evidence against them. So I'm not sure what is going on with our criminal courts and the people in them these days. But that's going to make a difference in the Alec Baldwin case too. So what I want to tell you is this is coming up, and I have my opinion on this. And I asked my engineer, Juan Garcia, who helps me with a lot of things. We were discussing this a little bit before the show. And I'm not asking him to take one side or the other, but I'm asking him to explain what is involved on set when you have a gun. My son was in the prop business, and he was a prop master, and he knew about the armoring and the armorer. So what was involved, but I lost him, as you all know. And so the guy that is my go-to guy for these things, because he's been in the video business and all forever, as well as being engineering for me and others on k4hd.com. Juan, could you come on and explain to us what it involves with a live weapon and how they use them and make sure they're safe?
Absolutely. So safety is always number one, first of all. The problem is that with like Western movies, they usually use real guns that are retrofitted for props. So they take real guns that have been out of commission, and they'll take like the firing pin out to make it safe so that they can't shoot any real life bullets. And for the scenes where they are actually shooting them, they have to use blanks, not real life ammunition. So safety is number one. You know, if you're pointing a gun at someone, whether it's a fellow actor or a camera person, there should never be any bullets inside the gun. That's usually like the way that they handle things. But these guns are very real for the most part, and they can be retrofitted back into a working gun. And sometimes on set, you have those people who want to, shoot things out in the desert, and so they'll retrofit them back to being functional, and then you have that window of people forgetting to bring it back to safety, and that's when accidents can happen.
Well, I think it's the armorer's responsibility to hand what they call a cold gun, a cold weapon, which is exactly what you just explained about how you have it safe and not able to shoot somebody. Now, shooting a blank does not kill somebody, correct? It just makes a noise.
No, no, because a blank is just the shell by itself, no bullet. So once you shoot it, the shell comes out of the gun, it makes a loud noise and everything, but there's no actual ammunition in it.
So it's my understanding that in this case, this was live ammunition. So someone had to have put it in there. And I can't see that it would be the producer, the executive producer, and the producer of the whole movie who would be putting live ammo in a gun.
Right.
So
And it goes way deeper than that because the gun has to pass through so many hands for inspection that you kind of wonder like how can this happen because it goes through its steps, right? So it goes through the safety officer, the prop master that has to make sure that it's a non-functional weapon and like making sure that there are no live rounds in it and stuff like that. So for him to have access to that gun with live ammunition, that's just almost like unheard of in the industry.
yeah, it's unheard of to me. I mean, I think Alec Baldwin shouldn't be the only one held responsible for this. I think definitely the armorer, who I understand was on one of her first big jobs. And she has claimed that she didn't have enough training. So I don't know what that means. Um, but I don't think, as much as everybody hates Alec Baldwin for things he has done in his past, I don't think holding him the only one responsible for this is correct. So I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens. And maybe I'll get an alert on my phone before we're finished with the show today and we can go back and revisit this. But thank you so much for explaining that to everybody. I appreciate it so much, Juan. You're a jewel to me. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
Thank you. So I think that should clear things up for some of us and some of you who don't understand how guns and all are treated in the industry. So we'll just have to wait and see. As I said, maybe I'll get an alert on my phone here and see what is happening right now. The other thing I want to touch on today is the homeless situation. And there doesn't seem to be a solution out there with these politicians. Governor Newsom in California, where we are, seems to think putting the homeless into rooms that cost $500 a piece and leaving them there until they can find a home is the answer to this. First of all, I think it's devastating to these hotels, and obviously they're getting paid by the government. But it seems to me like most of them will be in that area. Now, it's a known fact from many studies that a lot of these homeless people prefer to live out in the open. And locking them in a hotel room where they're trashing the room with all of the food that they're given because they don't like to eat it. They don't like to eat healthy. So they trash that food. Then they bring in all this stuff that many of them steal from the local 7-Eleven type stores. They trash it all over the rooms. We've seen many pictures of this and films of this in the Los Angeles and San Francisco areas. There was, I'm so sorry, I can't remember who it was, and I haven't had time to research it thoroughly, but there was an athlete, retired or not, I'm not sure, but I heard his plan, bits and pieces of it, that I think sounds like a much better solution than dumping the homeless in places that they don't want. Of course, a lot of them are drug addicts. A lot of them are people that have lost their jobs and have children, and they need help. They don't need to be locked into a claustrophobic hotel room that's designed for 2 people, and suddenly you have a family of 6 in it. This athlete, and before the next show, I'll try to find it so you could look it up on YouTube or something. He suggested that we take 2,000 acres, and also Greg Gutfeld mentioned this last night too. He had a similar idea. You take these 2,000 acres and you fence it in with gates so people can come and go. But you put up these tents and you tell the people as long as they follow the rules, they can live there. If they want to find more permanent housing, the government will help them find it. There will be job opportunities for them to go back out and get some work. There will be drug rehab in case they want to get clean, which I definitely don't think the government should be giving them clean needles and everything like that. That's, in my opinion, ridiculous. It's not helping anything except keeping that person alive using drugs. So that's my opinion. I think that this idea of putting them in these sort of tent cities and giving them the aid to get on their own 2 feet if they're capable, or give them medical or mental health assistance and food is a better idea than putting them in these hotel rooms. Because I think a lot of them feel that these hotel rooms, which are now turning into hotels that are like in horrible areas where they're drug dens, like opium dens, is not doing anybody any good. Some of them are close to schools. Some of them are close to other people's housing that they've paid for themselves. Nice neighborhoods. It's not a solution. So if any of you have a better idea, I think you should let your politicians know. And everybody's a politician that's in office these days, and they like to spout these different things, whether they make any sense or not, and whether it makes your taxes go up. And don't let people tell you that you're not paying for all of these bills, whatever that assistance bill was passed just before the midterms. What do you mean you're not being taxed? You're being taxed on the food that has gone up in price. You're being taxed on the gasoline that went up. So maybe it's not coming on your tax bill to the IRS or the California state right now. You're being taxed, and it's affecting your money, your family, how your cost of living is. So that's my thought on that, on the homeless. And the other thing I want to say is Davos. I don't know if any of you are watching this, but this is where the elite with the most money in the world gather, and they're discussing climate change. Well, remember how they keep telling you that you shouldn't fly private and you shouldn't be flying, period, because the airplanes contribute to climate change, how the world is burning up. Oh, that's hard to tell people when we've had so many storms and everything's freezing. One man stood up and said, my 24-year-old daughter told me I shouldn't eat meat anymore because of the cows and the emissions that the cows leave that are destroying the atmosphere and the air you breathe. So he decided to give up eating meat. And he had the alls to stand there and say, you shouldn't eat meat either. So not just one person is going to help, but if we get 11 million people to do it, it will really help. Well, that is a bunch of malarkey. Why should you be told what you can eat now? Not everybody wants to have a plant-based diet. And what about the people who raise the cattle for us? What about the people who have milk cows, milk, and other dairy products? So if it's the cows and they put these farmers and ranchers out of business, these elites that are having gourmet food in Davos, caviar, champagne, and don't get me wrong, I love caviar and I love champagne, but I worked for that and my husband worked for that. We're not taking it free from somebody. We need to know what these elites are doing. Well, get on YouTube or get on some from news station, whether you want CNN or Fox or some of the new ones that seem to be less biased, and see the 1,000 private planes that flew in, which happened to be 35 minutes from where the meeting is being held. So once they had one or two people on their private plane, maybe they had more. I know that there were pictures of John Kerry with his wife, the former Mrs. Hines. Well, they only had two people on. Those were the two people on there. Now, you know he's the czar of climate change. Okay, so he's flying private. Now, this is not a little tiny Learjet. These are great big airplanes that can hold 10 to 20 people, depending on how it's configured, or maybe more. And they're all lined up 35 minutes away. So how are they going to get to the Davos conference? Well, by helicopter, of course, or by supercharged SUVs. Now, what about those emissions? Does Davos have some sort of big covering over the entire area so the emissions are held in and just the people there are breathing it? Come on, people. Don't you think that we should have laws that affect everyone and not just people who are not elite? Well, I think you need to check into this. My point is not giving you my political views. My point is giving you the wise part of healthy, wealthy, and wise. This is wisdom for you, and I always ask you, go study it yourself. I'm just giving you ideas of what to study and what to educate yourself on. Well, I haven't heard anything about Alec Baldwin yet, so we're moving on and we're going into health. And you know, health means wealth. And if you're not healthy, you can't do anything. Right now, there seems to be a lot of labels being thrown around. It seems that if you're 30 to 59, you're an adult and in the midst of your career or raising your children, whatever you're doing, or you're 60 plus and you're elderly. And the labels seem to imply that your life is kind of ending because those golden years are no longer there. The golden years, you have to make them yourself. And I'm going to help you do that if you will just get these voices around you to calm down when you hit these golden years. And hopefully you'll prepare a little bit before they hit you. And of course, everybody talks about your 401k and your savings, you're buying real estate, you're doing this, you're doing all that. But what if you haven't done that? Or what if you've become a widow unexpectedly? And what if you've gotten a divorce you weren't counting on? What if you tried to be married a couple times and they failed and you don't know what to do about a meaningful relationship if even after that time you want one? There are a lot of good sites out there that just tell you what to do, but give you no way to do it. One of the ways is to stop these voices. Find your voice, even if you're 50, 60, or 70, or even into your 80s now. Somebody the other day was a woman that they were celebrating her 106th birthday. She looked like she was in her 70s. I wanted to know what her secret was, and she was busy. She stayed engaged. She stayed walking. She stayed moving. Now, granted, your time of living from the age of 50 to 100 have increased greatly, except for the last few years, the last 5 or 6 years, and it's gone down exponentially. And that, I think, is one reason because of COVID, not necessarily people dying from COVID, but because you became isolated and you stopped exercising and you stopped eating healthy. I admit it, I gained 10 pounds over COVID. We stayed in, we ate ice cream, Talante gelato, which is fabulous. Well, we've stopped doing that every night, and we've gotten back to our healthy eating. We did stop eating 3 meals a day. We've never done that before in our lives. We pretty much either ate a big lunch, big meaning a normal size lunch that would be a replacement for dinner, where we would have maybe hors d'oeuvres or salad, something like that. When you're in business, being a woman, you probably grab a lot of snicky snacks because you may be raising children at home also. It's very difficult to have a balanced diet. But last week I touched on something horrible that's coming up. You know, our country is the most obese country in the world, I do believe, and I went into that about ethnicities in different countries and all, where it is beautiful to be obese, and it shows that you have lots of assets. And that's a cultural thing. So I'm not addressing that. What I'm addressing is the fact that people who are on food stamps and assistance from the government are not eating healthy. They're using them for chips and sweets and desserts and soda pop and things like that. And they're giving them to their children in turn, so that we are now facing the largest population of children under the age of 13 that are obese. And starting out your life like that is so difficult on things like your heart, your liver, all of your systems in your body. And I touched on the fact that the government's idea of helping this problem is to start medications when the children are a toddler to stop their hunger cravings and things. And then the other one is at the age of 13, and they're trying to get it lowered to do surgery. Now, that may be taking out part of your stomach. It may be taking out part of your intestines. Literally, God only knows what they're thinking. This is not helping anybody. This is endangering children. We need to educate people who are on assistance on how to eat and tell them that they can have bananas and grapes and apples that are sweet. I know it's a very difficult thing to do, but I'm not aware that the government gives any nutrition classes to people that are on assistance. And as I stated last week, most doctors never take a class on nutrition. So they literally don't know anything except the latest pill that has come out to help you with your weight control. Now, the latest one I heard yesterday was on some news report, and I don't know the name of it, so I've got to research that for you. This is supposed to be a diabetes medication. But some of the people have discovered that when they've been put on it to control their type 1 or type 2 diabetes, that it helps them lose weight, because a lot of people with diabetes are obese, and some are morbidly so. Morbidly so, for those of you out there that don't know what morbid obesity is, it means that you could die from your obesity at any time. Nobody wants to die. Everybody wants to have good health. But now, even in Hollywood, people are asking for this diabetic drug. It starts with a D. The people are taking this drug to use it as weight control. It has become the drug of choice for weight control and loss of pounds in Hollywood. I saw that on a news show last night. This is so far out there, it's disgusting. Now, I've never taken a diet pill in my life, but I have done other stupid things, like not eating, like only eating 1,000 calories a day, which you need to cut down on your calories to lose weight. Fortunately, I've never been what I would classify as morbidly obese or even obese, but I've been chunky and overweight. And let me tell you, the stamina you have goes down. And when I was working and running my publishing company, I not only had my kids to take care of and make sure they had healthy food, but I had to go out and entertain a lot of times for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Sometimes that happens to people that are working when they're in executive positions. Sometimes it happens to all of you because you're snacking when you're making your kids lunch for school. You don't even realize exactly everything you're putting in your mouth that's making you gain weight. One of the biggest causes of being overweight is all the soda that people drink. Now, I'm not going to tell you to keep drinking soda and switch to diet soda, because in my opinion, that's just as bad as regular soda with all the sugar and calories. These sugar substitutes are not good for you. And I know a lot of women my age who have kept liters of Diet Coke, Diet Pepsi in their refrigerators, and they drink those down, 2 or 3 of them every day. What in the world are you thinking? All of these people have told me that they have brain fog and they can't understand it. Why do I get brain fog when I'm getting older? Well, there's lots of reasons. You could be having early onset dementia or be prone to Alzheimer's because of your genetics. There's a lot of reasons that you need to go see a doctor about. But if you don't have any of those, or you've not on a regular annual physical been told not to drink that, because how many doctors ask you what you eat or drink? They only ask you how many alcoholic drinks you've had. They don't ask you about anything else. Get rid of the diet soda. It's not good for you. And it does create brain fog, amongst other things. So try to do that for me, for you, for your children, for your husband, for your partner, for your friends, and tell them to do the same thing. Now, there are 3 top questions I'm always asked to address on the podcast, or just when I'm out to lunch with a girlfriend or girlfriends, or out to dinner with my husband and another couple. They'll always whisper to me if we're out together. But with the girls, they'll always ask me these 3 things. Now, I'm talking about single girls. Single girls. And you might be single and living by yourself for various reasons. You could be a widow. You could be divorced. I think I just went over all of these things. You could have chosen a long time ago not to ever have children, not to be married, to be by yourself. I'm addressing people who are by themselves, or they have elderly husbands and will soon be by themselves, and they're not sure what they're doing. So they look at aging and turning 50, 60, or 70, or even 80 as something bad. And I'm here to tell you, this is the beginning of your golden years. Now, you don't have to be, I'm picking on elites today. Don't be an elite, because you can't complain if you're an elite. Elite means you have plenty of money to take care of yourself, have fun, go out to dinner, buy designer clothes. Okay, those are the people this is not addressed to. I'm addressing normal people, people who've worked, people whose husband or partner has worked, and how you've saved for retirement, or perhaps if you've been single for a very long time and raising children by yourself, it's been extremely difficult, or you thought you were okay and suddenly we have been hit with a horrible inflation that just keeps going up. Don't look at these figures that gas has gone down. That always happens in the summer, except in places like California, having to do with the proportion of gas, the way it's mixed. Everything is expensive. Are you kidding me? Last week I was telling you $8 for eggs, $9 for eggs. This is crazy. This is making it difficult for women who are raising children on their own, and for themselves if they're single, to feed themselves, for goodness sakes. We were on Facebook last night. I always check my messages, and that's where I promote my show, because we're of a certain age and that's a big audience on Facebook. So one of my girlfriends said, has anybody looked at their gas bill and seen how much it went up? Okay, so I'm sharing with you that we've downsized. We're living in a small apartment compared to the homes we've had, because we wanted to, because we're not sure where we want to live. A couple shows ago, I told you we thought we might move to Mexico. So when we sold our big house, we decided we would downsize. Now, we've lived all over the country. We've lived in Pittsburgh, Boston. I go on and on, but that's not the point of my conversation with you today. Rent has gone up enormously, and along with it, your utilities have gone up. Our bill in this small apartment we're in was $30 a month for the gas bill. Well, this month it was $100. No, I wasn't late paying the bills. There was no late fee. There was nothing else. And when we got that bill, we are fortunate enough to be able to pay these things. As I said, we downsized because it was a choice of ours. And we're both in our 70s, and we've both worked most of the time. So we can afford that gas bill. We're very fortunate and blessed. But what about being single? and being able to afford that. So now jump back to what I started to tell you, the 3 things that women ask me. The number one thing is, how do I find a worthy and worth a lot of money man? Did you get that? Worthy means a good man, somebody who's going to make you happy and take care of you emotionally and enjoy doing the same things with you. High worth means a guy who will give you a $5 million life insurance policy as soon as you hop in the sack with him and get married. Okay, well, that's the number 1 question. The number 2 question is, how and where and with whom am I going to live the rest of my life? I don't think I want another partner. I don't think I'm ever going to meet somebody, because men are interested in the 40-year-olds instead of the 50, 60, 70, 80-year-olds. So where am I going to live? I don't think I can keep paying this mortgage. Maybe I could sell it and maybe I'd make a little bit of money, but maybe it's not enough to move into a fancy assisted living place. I don't want to go on government assistance. Maybe this woman has had to take care of her kids because she's been single for so long and she's never been able to make headway. Now her kids are gone working and they help her as much as they can, but she doesn't know what to do or where she's going to live, even the city she's going to live in. Because I'm telling you right now, there's a lot of people in California and a lot of women who are by themselves that are afraid to even live in California. And what little money they get from Social Security is taxed. So they're thinking of moving out of state. Who are they going to live with? Who are they going to be friends with? What are they going to do for the rest of their life? So that's the second question I'm always asked. And the third question is, how do I increase my income in my later years, which are supposed to be my golden years? Well, for many reasons, a lot of women are not prepared for this. It could be any of those reasons I've given you before. And it's a scary thing, but let me tell you, all of you in your 40s and 50s that listen in, and I know they're out there because they tell me, I think you should start thinking about the third question first. Okay, so let's reverse that. How do I increase my income in my later years? Well, the number 1 thing you have to do is change those voices in your head. You know, the little voice that goes around in here, and when you're not talking with your girlfriends or you're trying to go to sleep at night, it's going, oh my God, I'm such a failure. I don't have any money. What am I going to do? How am I going to find a job? Well, how come I never got to do what I wanted to do with my life? I always took care of everybody else. Oh, please, God, help me, help me. Remember what I said to you? God helps those who help themselves. And the number 1 thing you should be doing in your 50s, if you're now an empty nester or a widow or you have some free time, is think about taking care of yourself. Susie Orman is a great one to follow if you're wanting to know how to take care of yourself as a female and how to invest your money. This is for younger women now. And what you should do, how you should care for yourself and not your children. Well, guess what? Susie doesn't have any children. So there's nothing wrong with having your children. But I kind of like the idea that your children should help you too if you've been helping them. Now, I'm not saying your child should take care of yourself, but perhaps they could talk to you and help you take care of your finances in a better way. We're going to talk about some ways to make money immediately. If you can see in the future, you can't keep up with this inflation and you don't want to move, but you're going to have to move. And guess what? apartment rents and other housing is going up every day. The price of houses just exploded a while ago, but now it's even coming down a little bit. So if you're thinking of selling your house, look at the market, see what's going on. Is it really going to be better for you to sell your house? In most states, you have to pay some kind of tax on the profits from your house if you've held it for a long time. In California, we have a different law for your first time selling your original house. So you need to check everything out like that. But what if you don't have a house? It's not too late. It's not too late because we need to become positive and change our thoughts in our head. It's like the little train engine who said, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. I know I can, I know I can, I know I can. You all have to know that from your childhood. So that's what we're going to work on first, is changing your thoughts in your head. But at the same time, when I talk about this next week, I'm going to talk more about side hustles and what you can do to make some kind of not instant, but money to get you through this hard time, to give you a little help as you think about what you want to do in your golden years. Maybe you're well off enough that you do have some money to take care of you, but you're afraid to use it and you want to go on this trip with your girlfriends and you don't want to spend the money without having an income. So we're going to look at some things that you could start doing right away. I've mentioned some of them before, that you could get a little income in. Well, maybe you re-educate yourself and maybe do something more that you desire. Maybe you want to be a health coach. Maybe you want to become a naturopath. There's ways to do this. And I'm going to tell you some of them right now. And I'm going to ask Juan to put these 2 sites up so that you can I hope you have a notebook and a pen, because you retain things much longer if you write them down. So we're going to put these up for you. And I'm looking for my paper. We're going to put up on the crayon, that's the scrolling thing on the bottom for you who don't know these video terms, business.org and grantinfoclub.com. These are a couple of sites that my researcher, who happens to be my wonderful husband, found for me, and I looked at them, and I will tell you, we're only on question 2, but I'm going to tell you these. I want to share these with you. I'm not sharing the entire site, but this one is business.org, and it's for small business grants for women only. So identify as a woman, would you please? I'm just going to read you a couple of them. They rate them on this site as to their favorite ones. And I'm just going to read to you a couple of them. You'll have to look them up for yourself on business.org. There's one that is Lendio, Lendio. It's their top-rated lender. It partners with over 75 lenders, which improves your odds and efficiency to get the funding you need. The qualifications for this particular site, Lendio, Lendio, you're going to find all of these sites on business.org, so be sure you write that down. Qualifications for this one are great. 50,000 in revenue. This is for somebody that's in business already, 6 months in business, and has a credit score for yourself as 560. That's a pretty low credit score. So a lot of people can qualify that. I thought this one was interesting. Cartier Women's Initiative, Best for Business Development. All of these grants are for different kinds of businesses or different periods in your building your business. This one is Cartier Women's Initiative, Best for Business Development. Yeah, Cartier, the top-end jeweler. For profit businesses only, so you need to be in business and looking to make a profit. They give out 21 grants per cycle. It requires a long-term commitment, and you must be earning revenue to qualify. They have grants from $30,000 to $100,000. Now that's a lot of money. And that's why you want to be committed for long term, because I don't think that this one, I haven't looked it up. You can visit the site yourself. I think that's why they want you to make a long term commitment. Okay, Tory Burch Foundation, Best for Business Education. A lot of you need to be educated in business, and I don't know what all it covers, but it's for profit businesses only. Several grant winners per cycle, requires you to commit to a longer term and learning opportunities. Grants of $5,000. Doesn't say how many they give out, but you can find that on, oh, here it is. Excuse me. I do have that up here. They have up to 50 women will get selected for the program and grant. So, and of those 50 women, now listen to this, of those 50 women, 10 will ultimately get a chance to pitch their business to investors. Wow, what an opportunity. What an opportunity. If you're interested in education, networking, you make at least $75,000 a year of revenue on the past year. You want to pitch investors. This is not for you if you're a nonprofit, if you want grant money, just want grant money. You need to show them why you want it. And you want the grant to fund a specific project. It can't be just one project. This has to be for your total business. And boy, oh boy, Tory Burch is one of the smartest businesswomen ever. So I'm glad she started something like that. So those are just a few of the grants you can get. By the way, excuse me, I'm losing my clothes here. By the way, there are grants out there for education for women too, going back to school to become a doctor or teacher or something else like that. So check into that. Now I'm going to speed this up because I want to give you how you find a worthy and high worth man. Number one, be very cautious of dating sites. There's a lot of scammers out there, and there's a lot of bad guys. Even though they try to vet everybody on those dating sites, some of them can be pretty scary. There are sites out there for women of a certain age too. There are sites out there for Christian, Jewish, whatever your religion is, you can find. There's lots of legitimate dating sites, and they're even rated, so you can look on Google or someplace like that, or DuckDuckGo, and find the top rated dating sites for your age, your interests, what have you, but be very careful. My second advice to you, do you want to just hook up? And for you older women who don't know what hooking up is, it's just a sexual relationship. If you're looking for a man that is worth a lot of money, there are sites for that, but they're not taking piss poor, excuse my language, women just looking to hook an older man, because some women who go on dating sites are also scammers. If you're looking for a man who is worthy of your love and affection and want to share some of the same things, I'm telling you, do not jump into bed with him on your first date. You may not have had sex for a long time, but go get yourself a vibrator for God's sakes. Do not cheapen yourself and make people think less of you, meaning the man, that this is what you're into. Make him want you and respect you. And if he does love you, he will wait. I'm not telling you to wait 5 years or 2 years or something like that. And if you're going to be in a committed relationship, why don't you discuss that with him? And then you can decide what your love life is going to be like. Okay, that's it for today, folks. I was just all over there, and I hate to tell you, I have not seen anything about Alec Baldwin. So we'll have to wait and decide what we want to talk about next week on Judith Mancini Today. Don't forget, we're on over 100 podcast sites now. My favorites are k4hd.com because that's our home and it's easy to get to. And I always put those in my posts for you with directions on how to do it. And I enjoyed talking with you today. And sometimes I get going a little too much. I hope I haven't offended anybody. And you know what I say, you don't agree with me or I offend you, you can always push that off button. But I love you all, and I just tell it like it is. Thank you so much for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you next week. And I'll leave you with these words: cherish yesterday, dream tomorrow, and live today. Bye-bye.